gentlemen, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Train World TV. And tonight, on this Saturday night, we have another special action-packed lineup for you tonight. Athearn Trains, Jim Wiggin, long time no see. How you doing, Jim?
Man, I'm doing great, Ken. How you doing out there?
All right, not too bad. So we appreciate you coming on tonight. And Tony Cook from Model Railroad News. How you doing, Tony?
Hey, Ken, how are you?
All right, the usual suspect.
Yes, yes.
Tony, coming back. No matter what I say or do, Tony keeps on coming back.
It's all this train stuff. I can't get the train stuff out of my blood. So, yeah. And this Bicentennial thing, Ken's going to be one of the biggest locomotives of the year.
I was going to say it must be because of this big show that we have lined up for everyone tonight. Athearn Genesis has announced a special SD45-2 Genesis HO Bicentennial special. So we're going to talk it all about tonight, review it, and Athearn has so many great products that just came in the barn. So it's like action-packed Athearn month. It's quite a month for them. The SD70 ACUs, Canadian Pacific paint schemes, the Dash 9 units. So a lot of new stuff, great stuff. And who else better than Tony Cook to be on air to share us some history and knowledge? Because he's like a walking dictionary.
Oh, wait a minute. How old were you, Ken, in 1976 for the Bicentennial?
I wasn't there yet.
Oh, Jim, how old were you in 76? 3.
Yeah.
I was 10.
Oh.
I actually remember it. So, yes.
I do too, but probably my memory doesn't hold up as good as yours.
Awesome stuff.
All right, so we're going to kick it over to Jim first. And Jim, why don't you tell everybody, I guess, about this announcement?
Yeah, this is a sign of the times, really. But this was one of those days where I'm doing my work in my office here, just doing, getting ready for the monthly announcements. And Tony calls me up and says, "Hey, did you hear what BNSF is doing?" And I said, "No." He's like, "Yeah, they got an SD45-2. It's former 5704. They were going to scrap it, but they're thinking about painting it back into its original Bicentennial paint scheme and donating it to a rail museum." And he's like, "What do you think about that?" And I said, "It's pretty cool." And as soon as I hung up with him, I got on the phone with Athearn Direct, basically, beating down the door for John, our new developer, and all the other developers out there, and said, "Hey guys, we got to do this." And John actually said, "Yeah, you know what? I just found out about this myself." So this must have been hot off the presses what Tony got for us. And we were able to, say, you know what? Let's see if we can time the release of this locomotive for pre-order about the same time as when BNSF is going to finish up this model. So right now, as we speak, and Tony can talk a little bit about this, BNSF is right in the middle of restoring this locomotive back to its original 1975 paint scheme, which is really cool.
Yes, it's awesome stuff. There was a whole group of those. If we want to dive right in, I can give a little background here, and then we can talk about the model.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me bring up here.
I just love how that happened. Tony just gives Jim a call. Jim's talking, and Jim makes it happen with Athearn, and it's the excitement of the actual rail coming alive and the model train kind of piggybacking and carrying that excitement forward. And I think that's what's so great about these shows, having Tony and Jim on to kind of explain the backstory on it and the actual history, the story, the train itself. So we're really lucky to have you guys on tonight.
Thank you, Ken. We appreciate it.
It's awesome stuff. And it's, believe it or not, the locomotives are 50 years old of this group. And I've got a slideshow here we can look through, and I can show you some of the stuff. I've got there we go.
Sorry. I
There
dropped
were
the ball.
90 of these units that Santa Fe started buying in 1972. They bought them in 3 orders. There's the 3 orders for 90 total. This was the first, or the first group was 5625. Let's see. This is what Athearn will be doing in addition to the Bicentennial. So if you're all excited about that but want something to go with it, they've picked out, I think it's 4 numbers, Jim, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60.
That's correct. Yep.
Will all be done in this bookends as delivered scheme. This was the only order of the 3 orders that came in this scheme. It was right before Santa Fe brought back the War Bonnet for its freight. So this was the last time New Power came like this. I always like this scheme a lot. You know, there's no arguing that the War Bonnet is fantastic, but I think this tends to get a little bit forgotten, that everybody remembers the freight War Bonnet. And I always kind of like this. So the 45-2s came in this scheme in 1972 for this first order. There'll be 4 of these numbers, both DC and then DCC and sound equipped. Again, I just showed you the 4 numbers there that'll be done. And then the second order came in 1973, and they were the first SD 45-2s to come with the War Bonnet scheme. And I did look at that Volkswagen there, and it does have the 53 on the door. So that's Herbie the Love Bug out rail fanning. Isn't that wild? I was looking at that picture. I'm like, what's that on the door? Is that really the 53 in a circle? It's like, wow. I think that's maybe Chillicothe, Illinois. But anyway, there's the first unit out of that order that was delivered in 73. And from that group, they selected the last or newest 5, 5700 to 5704. And they painted them all in this fantastic War Bonnet mix Bicentennial. I mean, man, that silver front pilot with the big plow, silver truck, silver tank, and then the kind of traditional Bicentennial with the diagonal bars and stars. And then you can see the War Bonnet behind the seal there on the side. And there's 5701. 01 again. 5702. These ran Santa Fe's hottest trains from like Chicago to the West Coast. Now you notice here the seal on the side is missing. And what I heard, they were vinyl adhesive things that were put on there, that round circle behind the cab, and they actually came off in weather, or like the washing stuff peeled them off from what I heard. And so like this shot is from mid 75, and it's lost the seal on the side, but it will be put back on or the one they're redoing will have it. This is from 76 in Argentina over at the Kansas City, Kansas side, their yard. And then 5604, which is the unit that's being restored. This was the 5th of the Bicentennials. There it is in Fort Worth, working in the American Freedom Train.
Oh, wow.
So
cool.
These got a lot of priority type assignments. It's hooked up there to the tender of the Freedom Train. And then here's the beginning of the project. This is at Mid-America Rail Car in Kansas City. This was the unit, and it's BNSF number 6484. And when they move these off the roster, they'll do this where you see the GN on the bottom, like Great Northern. I've seen this, like there's a SD40-2 that they donated out to Marceline, Missouri, and it has GN reporting marks. That I think that's something, I don't know that exactly on how that works, but it's something as they put them off the roster, that GN somehow comes to life on some of these. But that's what it looked like when it was brought to Kansas City. And then this is what it's going to be done. This is Stephen Priest, a local guy in Kansas City and well-known rail historian, is working with Mid-America Rail Car and BNSF to help make this happen. These are his drawings of putting the locomotive back together. And I mean, the minutia of the stuff being done to get it back to what it looked like, including, you see there in the center, there's the ACI label is being recreated. That was that late 60s computer tracking label that was on the locomotives and was pretty much discarded by the mid 70s, but even that's going to be back on it. So really awesome. You can see it's got everything it had back in the day will be on it again. Here's the vinyl for the seal is being redone, and that's it awesome. Being put together. And then this is it being sandblasted. I got to go visit one day. I was invited by Stephen Priest to go to Mid-America Rail and got to see the unit. They were sandblasting it while I was there. It is going to get restoration back to its 70s look for the most part. So like the ditch lights that you see there are coming off. This was like October when I shot these pictures. The nose light will be removed. The light up between the number boards will be returned. So it's going to get its look, for the most part, back to what it was.
Wow.
And then it's going to the Southern California Railway Museum in Riverside. And you can look, that's socalrailway.org. You can find out more by going there. And I've got the stuff you've seen here is diesel era. I'm working on this week. It's going to press. I'm going to cover the 1972 group. And then next quarter, we'll have that 1973 order and the Bicentennials, and should have pictures of the new unit as it comes out then. So really it's amazing to think of a Bicentennial coming back. You know, I mean, what the N&W's SD45, I think, got repainted for a museum. And Ken, you know this from selling trains, isn't it incredible the popularity of Bicentennial models to this day?
Yes.
I mean, is there any other kind of special event thing that you can still make those models and people buy them? You got to have them.
Yeah, I think the railroad and train community is very, I guess, pro-America. And a lot of people love the stars, stripes, American, the flags, the UP, Union Pacific engines with the flag. It's always the best seller because it has the American flag. So I think there's something about being a proud American and tradition and being proud of our country that is something great, and it shows with the popularity of these engines. And Tony, what amazes me is that you were able to find out that the decal was not always on bad weather. How do you even find that out? Like, how does Model Railroad News figure out those little details like that? Because I don't think you could find that in books.
It is. Oh yeah, no, that's
Really?
in books and articles.
Okay.
Oh yeah. In fact, that diesel era at the end, I list all the articles I use for reference, so you can go and do additional reference work and reading. And
I'm going to have to ask Alexa if she knows.
I don't think she's that much of a rail fan. I've never asked a lot of questions, but I'll start asking some questions. But yeah, not so much.
You're going to have to make a Model Railroad News Amazon app. Instead of ask Alexa, ask Tony. But no, that's great. A lot of excitement on that. And Jim, I love how Athearn just hopped right on this. And Tony, it seems like this engine is still in the works. So I guess when will it be, on display and at the museum?
As I say, the last I heard, it was a little bit behind in getting finished up. It is primed, so I guess it's just gray right now and getting its paint. I heard maybe in the next 2 weeks, so by early February. And I don't know when the museum in California plans to unveil it. There may be an opportunity that it'll get a quick display in Kansas City before, and I'm still in the midst of trying to make that work. So we'll have to see. But it's a great project. Stephen Priest has really gone out of his way, as a lot of other guys have, to make this a reality. I mean, this could have been something that just ended up under the torch like so many locomotives. So an amazing thing, and a lot of work by these guys, and they really are to be thanked for this happening.
That's great. That's great tidbits and information, Tony. And Jim, I guess, where does the delivery date line up with the actual engine being announced and premiering?
Sure. So we announced this the beginning of January. Folks that are watching this that are interested in not only this Bicentennial locomotive, but the other SD45-2s that we're offering in this run, they have until Friday the 28th to place their pre-orders. And then next year, about this time, we're probably looking at about February of 2023, they'll be delivered. Now, by then, the actual locomotive, 5704, will be in the Southern California Railway Museum by then. So it'd be kind of cool to, go to the museum, see the actual locomotive, and have a piece of that history on your layout in 187 scale.
That's amazing. And what's interesting, I've noticed it in sales, and Tony, I'm sure you've noticed it in the Model Railroad News, I guess, articles, what to cover and what's hot, is anytime there's something actual on the rails, whether they're restoring an engine or I guess going through different towns or maybe through different museums being restored, the popularity just goes through the roof. So what was, let's say, I don't know, X number of sales. Now, because everybody's seen it or it's at that museum or being restored, it's, magnifying on a huge scale. So I think once people actually start hearing a little more about this, and this is why shows like these are so informative and great. And Tony and Jim, you guys are doing your own shows now, which is great. So people start to hear about this and get more information. So I think it will snowball and get bigger and bigger.
This is an awesome one because we've got the model announced. How many times is it like all the Amtrak things? Who's going to make them? Are they going to make them? Right. Is it going to be an O? Is it going to be an HO? So this is an occasion where the real one's not even back out yet, but you can order the model now. So that I wonder if somebody will do that. Already answered. So that's nice.
And Jim, I actually see one behind you. No?
Yeah, I've got one right here in the studio on my not studio, sorry. In my layout room here on my little switching layout. This is from the previous run. This is 5704. And it's a Genesis locomotive, like we were saying. And it's essentially going to be exactly as you see here. Now, Tony kind of alluded to it, and I'll talk a little bit about the history of the other Santa Fe locomotives in a minute, but 5704 is going through that restoration process. And as Tony alluded, they're taking off the ditch lights. We're still trying to find out if they're going to take the strobes. You can't really see them here, but if you look at those pictures from earlier, Santa Fe was, and a lot of railroads were using a strobe effect on the cabs of the locomotives or on for safety reasons. Whether or not BNSF will put those back on or not, I don't know. But considering the data that Tony's digged up already, it looks like they're going to be pretty complete. So what you see here in HO will be pretty much what you see in real life.
That's great. And what's interesting about this, Jim, is like Tony was saying, you guys kind of worked in the pre-order before the actual engine has been fully restored. So it's going to be interesting to see if people pre-order a lot. We'll have some room, of course, and Athearn will try to have that cushion, but it's probably going to sell out once the engine starts coming out. The collectability is going to go crazy. I think it's going to go through the roof because I just don't see enough cushion there. And once people actually see it in the museum and the restoration, and Tony's going to probably do some great articles in Model Railroad News, I think the demand's just going to be really great. So if you're out there and you haven't pre-ordered this model and are on the fence, definitely go ahead and pre-order it because I really think that the collectability and the prices are going to go through the roof on this. And Tony, you'll probably be putting it in the collector magazine one day.
No doubt. Yep.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Ken. I mean, a good example of something that we just, our distribution center was cleaned out that day. I had a hard time. Tony knows this. I had a hard time getting him a sample is the SD70 ACUs.
Yeah.
And I stressed to folks last year, pre-order. Now, these aren't just a mass manufactured locomotive. It's almost a hybrid brass model. They're pre-ordered and they're custom built. These are Genesis series locomotives are custom built. Each one is different. So if you look at our Santa Fe models this month, every single one of those is different in some way because of its detail. But you're right. When people saw the SD70Us, they're like, holy cow, these are amazing. I need one of these. And they may not be a CP fan. They might not be a modern fan, but because of what CP did with those,
right,
they just lend themselves to the collectible market. And I think this is going to be the same way.
Without a doubt. Well said.
So the other ones that
we're doing specifically the Santa Fe, and I'm kind of excited by this. I'm with Tony on this. I really like the billboard or the pinstripe paint scheme they used. Some interesting facts for some of the folks out there that are interested in the Santa Fe or the SD45-2. Two of the roads that we picked for this run actually survived all the way up to the BNSF era. Obviously, 5704 later on was renumbered 5834. And as Tony was saying, that specific unit was built in May of 73. The other models that we're doing, 57 all the way to 5660, they were part of a May 1972 order. The only one out of that group that survived BNSF era was, let's see, I'm trying to remember now. It was 5659. It later became 5841. And at looks like 1998, they renumbered it to 6491. Now, I'm sure that is off the roster now since 5704 was taken off as well. But the interesting one, 5658, never made it to, I don't even think it made it to its renumbering, because by 77, it was unfortunately destroyed in an accident in Kingsman, Arizona. So that one didn't last very long. It only lasted until 77. But cool sets of locomotives our developers have picked out along with the 5704.
And that's not the only, in that group, we've got another special paint, Ken, that Norfolk Southern Erie Lackawanna. And this, I know that the Bicentennial Santa Fe is going to get nothing but attention, but this is another one that I think a lot of guys are going to want. And has it been done before, Jim? Is this a second run of this?
Second run, if I remember right. It's been a little bit. And then the other thing too is we did get some great feedback from our customers. This is one of the great things about living in this age right now, is we get instant feedback from our customers. So when we went out, we had some artwork out there, and we had some enthusiasts email our developers. And so now we've got even better info, so that when we do this particular locomotive, it'll be that much more accurate.
And this, of course, is a Norfolk Southern that was done in like an Erie Lackawanna heritage. Erie is one of the other roads that bought SD45-2. Santa Fe was a big purchaser. Clinchfield, Erie. And the Erie, as you can see, has got a huge fuel tank. I think that's one of the reasons they bought that. Same reason they had their SDP45s was to get from one point to the other without having to stop for fuel. So if you notice there between the trucks, like how the fuel tank seems really big and goes all the way up to the sill, that there's not that kind of curve over like you see. Let me get another one up here. So yeah, that's got a regular fuel tank with the air tank sandwiched in between there with the yellow sill, and then that one's just got a huge tank. I believe those Eries had that done on purpose. And then this is another that's coming in your run of these SD45-2s, is a Seaboard Coastline with the Pulling for You slogan.
That's neat.
And that's a nice.
I've never seen that before. The Pulling for You slogan on a Seaboard Coastline.
That was very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they did that on a select few. They didn't do it on all of them, but yeah, that was kind of one of their slogans they were doing, about 77 or so, if I remember right.
I haven't really seen it in the model train industry, so I think that looks really neat and sharp. So very cool.
And there's what, 3 numbers? I think you got 3 numbers coming on these, and then there's some really cool either prime for grime or patch.
Like we've got 2 prime for grime. They're the Helmet Atlantic Leasing Company, and they're former Seaboard and former CSX locomotives. And what makes them cool, these are good for guys that are modeling in the 1990s into the early 2000s. The CSX one is really cool because it's one of the original CSX paint schemes. It's just the blue and gray without the yellow. There's no yellow nose or yellow ends. It's just blue and gray. And the way the prime for grime is, the CSX and the blue is kind of chalked out. It's almost all a grayish blue color. So that'll be cool. And then of course the Family Lines paint scheme is the other one. And you can, if you go to our website, athearn.com, you can see how the prime for grime is going to look. It's going to be a great representation for anybody that wants some lease power in the 90s to early 2000s.
And Ken, you got all these up on the website, I'm assuming, that we can
Yes.
pre-order all this stuff now?
And this is Athearn's the pulling for you on the seaboard coastline. It's really neat. They do a really great job.
Yeah, it's a scheme. We have done the seaboard coastline before, but it's been a number of years. So we thought it was time to bring this one out again. And, Ken, the great thing about, we said it before, but, with everything being available online and getting feedback from our customers instantaneously, we'll put out a survey now and then. And seaboard coastline was actually one of the lines that a lot of folks were asking for. So that's why we decided, hey, we're doing the SD45-2s. Let's give the seaboard coastline guys a model. So they've got 3 different road numbers to choose from.
That's great. And it's funny because I didn't even pick that up on the order sheet until Tony pointed it out. So good eye, Tony. I think that will do well.
Speaking of special paints, I want to, Ken, I got to hit this one because if you don't have it yet, I think you still have some of these. Here I've got the page up.
Yeah.
This is an amazing deal on these. These UP paints have been so popular, and that is DCC and Sound.
Yes.
And you still have some of these. I know you've got the standard DC as well.
Yeah, it's
$169.
it's
That's
amazing price, and
wow.
The paint scheme is so unique, and the detail that Athearn Genesis does, the high quality, it's just really a great looking unit, sharp, something different for the layout. So Union Pacific really did a great paint scheme on that.
Yeah,
and fantastic price. That one, I already have it. It's one of those I keep thinking at times. I start to order it. It's like, oh, I have that. Yeah, I already got that. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes those deals from Train World, yes, I do end up buying things twice. Like, oh, I already bought it once. Wow.
That's it. And Jim, anything else at Athearn going on or coming in that we should be aware of?
Yeah, definitely. If guys are looking for something a little bit newer than the 70s, like the 90s, if you're a fan of the horsepower wars of the 1990s, we got 2 locomotives from EMD that you'd be interested in. And I know Tony's got a few pictures of these in the wild. The first one is one we've not done before. It's new tooling. It's the SD90. Sorry, Tony, I led you up wrong. There we go. SD90 Mac H. Not been done before. Now, we have done SD90 variations in the past, but that was with the modified cab. The SD90 Mac H did not have the notches on the corner of the cab that UP had asked for after this initial order. So we're doing the demonstrator that you see here, which was also in celebration of EMD's 75th anniversary. And we're also doing 4 different road numbers for the Union Pacific.
Very neat.
And I think these are as much as these demonstrator paints. Anytime these are done, I have a hard time not going for these. So I think these are as great as the Bicentennials or like the Heritage units. These kind of paints too are really awesome. And I believe, this is a one of a kind, wasn't it, Jim? 8204. It was
a one of a kind.
The only one like this, and so you guys are doing the model of it. And that's awesome.
That's a big engine.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were talking about this locomotive as well as the SD80 last night, and I remember reading about this in the mid '90s and thinking, "Holy cow, that thing is huge!" For a guy that had come from the Northeast, rail fanning, the biggest locomotive I had seen at that point in the Northeast was maybe a GP40-2. Seeing this monster on the rails was just wow. Nothing like it. It was kind of a throwback to the 50s and 60s when Union Pacific was, upping their game with all kinds of experimental motive power. And that's what it reminded me of. And, we are doing the demonstrator like you see here, but we're also doing 2 variations of the Union Pacific paint scheme. These are both red sills for you UP guys out there. I know I hear it a lot, red sills forever. But we're doing a 97 to 2002 paint scheme. And we're also doing the scheme that lasted from about 98 to 2006. So there's some subtle differences there. So if you're a fan of the UP during those eras, you're going to want to pick one of these up. But it's another one of those locomotives too, Ken, that if you're somebody that likes the engineering marvels of stuff like this, you might want to get it and just put it on a shelf. It's a really cool model.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's different, unique.
And of course, too, these are Genesis 2.0. So what that means is you have the lighting features, the sound features, and of course the detail features that aren't found even in your standard Genesis. So what that means is you have independent function of your ditch lights, your headlight, your number boards, and ground lights, which is really cool. And of course, all of those can be fine-tuned. If you have the Tsunami 2 version, you can go in there and fine-tune that with your CV ratings. And then just the amount of detail that we packed into these locomotives. It has a full interior. The top of the cab does come off, so you can further detail it with a crew if you like.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, just a bunch of detail we throw in there.
Very
And we're offering these in both standard DC. So if you want to put your own in, or if you just want to run it DC, you can. And of course, we have the Tsunami 2 variant as well. And the Tsunami 2, I think, Tony, you and I were talking about this with the switching layout. My desk is just down over there. If I put 2 or 3 of these guys on the switching layout, it sounds like I'm in Galesburg, Illinois, over the yard. I mean, it just sounds awesome because they've got that dual sugar cube speaker. And there's something about the dual speakers. It's very pleasing to the ear.
It is very nice. Yeah, that's a nice enhancement.
Yeah,
and these all have LEDs now. This will have ground lights because it's a 2.0, so the light over the center of the lead truck lights up. I mean, there's a lot of extra features to that 2.0 that's really nice.
Yeah, I'm curious, do you see people more gravitating towards the Genesis 2.0 or Genesis line? Is it really just a healthy mix all around?
One of the things that we see at Athearn is we're seeing more and more folks that are becoming not only prototypical minded, but their operations are becoming more and more prototypical. So if you go on YouTube, and YouTube is just amazing right now, there's so many, especially young guys with great YouTube channels, and they will operate their locomotives as close to full scale as possible. So they'll dim the headlights and shut the ditch lights off. So functions like that in the Tsunami 2 are very important to them. So they're following basically the FRA rules. And, in past locomotive setups, you couldn't quite do that. Now with Genesis 2.0, you can not only do that, but if, Tony thinks his ground lights aren't bright enough for his operating session, he can go in there and fine tune just the ground lights. He doesn't have to worry about anything else.
See, Ken, he thinks I actually take the models out of the box, which is nice. It's like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and think that. It's like, never take that out of the box.
Tony is a collector.
We're gonna sneak a layout in his house at some point.
I got a test track for the magazine, and I do occasionally take things out of the box for that, and the stuff I send to my guys to review. But oh yeah, it comes in from Train World. I get it. Open the top of the box, look at it. Beautiful on the shelf.
I think it's something about, people working in the industry, because a lot of our coworkers too, they obviously have to get everything because they're in the industry and everything's new, hot, exciting. So it's like an addiction. They just have to get it that month. And a lot of these guys, they may be, in their 40s, 50s, and they keep on saying every year, yeah, I'm going to build my layout, or yeah, I'm going to get to it. But in the meantime, for the 20, 30 years, they just keep on collecting and collecting. And it's amazing because, and it's true with Athearn, every month, your monthly packet, there's always something for someone. And I think that's the point I was trying to make with the Genesis 2 and Genesis and Athearn Roundhouse and Ready to Roll. So there's all different lines and there's something for everyone. So you just got to keep on collecting. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's even for me, every month there's something. I've got 3 things here that are going to make the paycheck a little bit lighter next week when they come into stock. So I have the same problem that you guys do.
Yeah.
That's it. I think most of our coworkers here at Train World do it for the employee discount. But that's great. So lots of stuff lined up. We're excited, Jim. Tony and Jim, anything last minute words before we start kicking it over?
Well, we've got the
pre-order.
Tony, do you have time to?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Sorry, Tony. Do you have time to show the SD80? We can go over that real quick because that's another one that's got an interesting paint scheme. So this is big news too, and this goes back to listening to our fans online. We have offered the SD80 in Genesis 2.0 in the past, and we've done them for Conrail because Conrail was really the only person to order these, or were they? So this is where Legendary Liveries comes in. And Ken, I know Legendary Liveries does really well for you guys. Yes. But this Legendary Liveries is something different. Not only could we do the CSX former Conrail units in this really cool YN2 paint scheme, as you see here, we are doing 801. So if you're a fan of that paint scheme, definitely look that up. But what our developers found out during research was Chicago Northwestern had an order in for SD80s, and they were going to tag on to the Conrail order. So they were essentially going to be just like the Conrail SD80s, but in the Chicago Northwestern paint. And I don't know about you guys, but the Chicago Northwestern paint scheme was one of the coolest paint schemes. And the SD80 wears it well. So we are going to offer that paint scheme in our Legendary Liveries. And I think we're doing, I'm going to verify here, I believe we're doing 3 different road numbers for that. And yeah, we're doing 2 road numbers for the Chicago Northwestern, and it's the Operation Lifesaver paint scheme that they used right up until the end. And, unfortunately, that order never went through because we all know what happened to Chicago Northwestern. But yes, there was information our developers found while doing research that Chicago Northwestern did intend to order a fleet of these at one point. So we had to do that paint scheme. And that's had a really positive response for us.
I really like the yellow and dark blue just meshing and kind of colliding on that. Really cool. Really neat paint scheme.
And I think it's a one of a kind, isn't it, Jim? That's the only one that got. Yeah. So that's
the 801 was, it was the only one to get that. It looked like that till about 2007. 2001 they repainted it, and 2007. It slowly went away. They also we're doing in this same release, if you're a CSX fan, we're doing 4 road numbers in total. There's a patched version of the YN2 4591, but we're also doing the YN3 paint scheme, which is the darker blue and almost gold. It's kind of a throwback to the CNO or the BNO. We're doing 2 road numbers there as well. We're doing 4590 and 4600. And those were done about 2003, 2004, and they lasted in that looking like that until about 2008.
Very cool.
Great stuff, and it disappears so quick. That's the thing I want to end with on, Ken, is I just got from you the set of, and I didn't buy all of them, which is a surprise, but the Athearn Roundhouse, the 40-foot flat car with the boat load.
Yeah.
I got like all the military ones from you, the Navy, Coast Guard. There's like 2 more.
That was so hot, Tony.
I know. Yeah.
You always buy the hot stuff. I don't get it.
All you got to do is look at my pre-orders and the stuff that you ought to be bringing in. But I'm going to run those in HO Collector and do the story on, because they tooled that boat for Lionel. Athearn did. They made a HO version of the O-gauge boat in the early 60s. So we're going to do that and then show this new run. But man, that new run, I had them on order from you, and I had a handful of people saying, okay, I got this one and this one. Do you know? And I don't remember if you still had them in stock. But as I started getting a couple of those emails, I'm like, I'm glad I ordered all 4 of those I wanted from you. When they showed up, it's like, there they are. Awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing because usually on freight cars, there's less of a pre-ordering because it's at a lower price than the engines. You want to ensure that you get your engines, but on these flats with the boat, everybody went crazy because I don't think anyone's done a flat with the boats in HO for a long
Been a
time.
while.
So it
It's
was like crazy, and Athearn just announced all these different paint schemes, and it was like just craziness, and they're at a great price too.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
It's not like you have to spend $60-$80 for a flat with the boat. It was at a great affordable price, and Athearn really hit the ball out of the park on that one.
Well, thanks, Ken. We had a lot of fun doing those, and you'll be seeing more releases like that in the future. It's always good to keep the kid at heart happy as well.
That's right, without a doubt. And next boat you got to get someone fishing or trolling on the back of it. But no, this is great, Jim, Tony. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Tony, I always say you're like a walking dictionary. Model railroad news. Just so much information. If you haven't gotten a copy of it, please do. It's great. I actually have the copy at my office. I should have brought it home tonight. Usually I'm doing these things at work so I could show it off and the great cover and everything. But you guys do such a great job.
That's
there
a
you go.
We got 2 or 3 Athearn units on the cover. So yeah.
There you go.
Very good. And Jim, thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking about this engine with Tony. I think a lot of people haven't heard about it yet. So I think it's great for the show to kind of start the momentum, start hearing about it. And I really think it's just going to snowball into a much bigger event and pre-order. And I think, once the pre-orders are sold out, I think people are going to really start to scramble to get this engine once it starts to come into, the museum, or just really start to get its paint job going. Because I know Tony at Model Railroad News is going to do a great job covering it and doing the event. So we're excited for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a good one. So, don't avoid the heartache. Pre-order. You've got till Friday the 28th to talk to Ken and say, hey, set me up, because I know Tony. I've got one, so I'm all set. Unless they change it, if BNSF changes something, that that's justification I need to get another one.
And the new Train Roll website is awesome for the pre-orders. I like the interface. It's easy to go through. I can actually look and see all the stuff that I've got on pre-order. So nicely organized. The new website's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Tony. We got a lot of adjustments and upgrades coming this year. So we appreciate the patience, and we'll definitely keep the ball rolling. And someone said no more snowballing because it's too cold. So we had enough snow. But I thank everyone so much. You could get these Bicentennial Athearn Genesis units at trainworld.com. Pre-order them today. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate it, and have a great night, everybody. Stay safe.